And yeah, we should pick up some steam. I'm just excited to be here, and I appreciate you hopping on and coming back for another round.
Oh yeah, dude. I'm sorry I couldn't make it last weekend, man. I was tied up at work and I was just
No,
like
it's all good.
busy.
Yeah,
But
and that's the expectation. That's why I'm putting everything on the website and everything. So feel free to jump on when you can, and it
yeah.
feels right. And then
Yeah, no, for sure. I
if
mean, I definitely do. Like I said, like I definitely want to, get on as much as I can and spread the word, dude. If nothing else, just to like, I mean, obviously, like I think it's cool. Like I thought that first lesson was pretty interesting. But man, I like just to support you too. I mean, I know it's kind of like grassroots right now, but
yeah,
dude, this is
definitely, bro.
badass, man. Dude, it looks like legit. Like the website, like I didn't know what to expect, and so
Right.
once I kind of saw it, I was like, holy shit, man! Like this actually looks like professional.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels super aligned, and like there's a lot of traction, a lot of conversations happening here in town. I'm meeting with some really good guys that want to help, and just organically words getting out. And I just made the decision to go ahead and open this thing up to ex-collegiate athletes and professional athletes as well. So, and I think that'll be a really cool dynamic between athletes that have committed their time and energy to pursuing sports, and then military guys that are also in a very similar boat. I think those are two things that are usually kept separate. A lot of people shy
Yeah,
away from veterans organizations if they're not a vet. And I think it
yeah,
could be really healthy, for us to recognize that, there's people struggling with identity, all over, and a lot of different stories, but there's a lot of similarities, especially in the skill sets that we have, and the way that we can show up in the world. So yeah, I think that's where we're going to continue the conversation and just keep evolving that, and we'll build it up as we go. But I just wanted to go ahead and jump in.
hell yeah, man, dude. It's
Yeah, man.
like I said, man. I think it's so cool. Like even the first shit you did, I don't know whatever happened to it, but like when I saw your van, I'm like, fuck, man, that's so cool. Like I wish I would think of some shit like that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was fun. It was definitely served its purpose at that time. But it's like I'm writing my own damn book around here. Like we got there's new chapters.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. Well, let's go ahead and jump into this. I think you'll enjoy this lesson tonight. So yeah, I wanted to get into lesson two. So tonight we're going to talk about defining our values, and habit tracking. So we'll kind of get into this. We can skip a lot of this since we've already been over it, and you know the deal. This is mostly for some new guys if they trickled on. But did you go through the website and upcoming
Yep.
events?
Yep.
All right, cool. So that's all easy. Any feedback there on accessibility?
No, man. I mean, I think it looks really good.
Dope. Cool, man. Appreciate it.
Now, the
Uh,
only thing, I I tried to like Google integrate
yeah.
and like I couldn't find it, but so I had to use like the link. I don't know
Yeah.
if
No,
like
yeah. That's something I'll get to eventually. Like I definitely need to work on like the SEO and make sure it's accessible and people can find it if they search it.
yeah.
I noticed
So
the
and
same
like
thing.
I don't know if that's something you got to pay for or what, but I mean that's
Yeah,
like very minor.
I
I
think
mean,
it's
not
just building
matter.
a presence as well. Like one thing I might do is I might launch another podcast. I'd like to do an integrate specific podcast. So that'll kind of help build a presence online.
Hmm.
And then probably at some point I'll start running some ads so that we get more guys that are like searching, different opportunities. Like how many of us end up in a Google search? Like, damn, like how can I get fundraising for this business, or what courses are out there for vets or whatever. I've ended up there a
Yeah.
thousand times. So this is definitely like this program. I want it to be on that level where
Yeah.
people are stumbling across it and where it's getting out, and hopefully we can help guys from coast to coast, or
Yeah.
even all over the world that are just kind of
No,
blazing their own trail.
for sure, man.
Yeah,
Like, and it's it's so cool the two of me just because like I said, like I know it's kind of at its inception right now and kind of getting off the ground, but you see all these like other veteran nonprofit like Team Red, White, and Blue or just
yeah,
whatever. And dude, I don't know, like in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, like who knows, like this might be the next big thing, and so
yeah, man.
like that's
No,
pretty
I'm
badass.
yeah, I'm really confident that it will be, and like I'm excited to be where I'm at right now because like the guys that are getting in early, like one, like there's no cost associated at all. Like I want this to be, straight value going to guys that need it, and like I'm getting to
Mhm.
go through the reps and getting to do my thing and figure out how to, teach these sessions. But I think the long term vision is so much bigger than where we're at, from course creation to workouts and retreats, but then, eventually getting into the apprenticeship program, I think that's where things are really going to start to take off. But yeah, I'm committed to this. And like, this is my sole focus right now. Everything else in my life is just really here to support this. So I have a really good
Yeah,
feeling about it. But
that's
well, cool,
badass.
man. Well, let's jump into this. I don't want to take up too much of your time tonight. So we probably
I
got a
started
good like
fucking gassing up.
30. No, yeah, it's awesome, man. I appreciate all the support and I'm so glad you're here, man. But yeah, let's get into this. Let's do some learning. All right. So all right, so this is lesson 2, defining our values and habit tracking. So I kind of wanted to focus on like how we're going to highlight our priorities and really ensure that we're not wasting energy in our day-to-day lives. All of us have, leaks and energy sucks that, can kind of take away from, our priorities. And I want to like introduce some tools tonight that'll kind of help us focus on that. So I was reminded of this quote. I was doing some research the other night. So the principle of priority states A, you must know the difference between what is urgent and what is important. And B, you must do what's important first. So Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, that guy was in the U.S. Marine Corps. If you haven't read The War of Art and some of his other books, did you ever read Gates of Fire?
Yeah, I think so. A long time
That
ago.
was a while back. Yeah, I read that. I read that right before we went into training, and like that book, fucking, that was so
Yeah,
good. It just took
Gates
you
of Fire, and
places.
then what's the other one? Art of
Yeah,
War.
yeah. So he's got the War of Art. So there's also the Art of War, which is amazing. Uh, I think that's Masashi. Um, but Stephen Pressfield wrote the War of Art. So he's a long-term writer. I believe he wrote for the New York Times. And he's written a bunch of other books from Doing the Work, Turning Pro, The War of Art. He's just got a ton of great reads, and they're all super fast reads. And his
Mhm.
delivery is just cut straight to the point. I really like his writing style. So check him out if you haven't. I'll send that to you after this. It's a great book. But so yeah, we're kind of reviewing lesson 1. In lesson 1, we began to identify some of the roles that we play in our day to day. We began to recognize some of the patterns that we're playing out in our lives. I think it's really important to acknowledge these roles and some of these masks that we wear in our day to day, like we talked about before, so that we can identify like what are some of the stronger roles that are really helping us get to where we need to be and ground us in our day to day. And then also, like, where are we giving away too much of our energy? So I kind of want to take that same focus of recognizing those patterns and those labels that we talked about in lesson 1, and then shift into how we're kind of tracking our habits and taking care of tasks and making sure that we're really clear on our priorities. So we'll kind of go through that tonight, and I want to talk about just a few things that can kind of help us tap into this, and then we'll take it from there. So so far in your transition, I'm sure you've learned that you only have so much energy, right? And we get to a
Mhm.
point where, like myself included, like I got out and I had so much freedom of choice of what I wanted to do that I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And I want to do that. And I like this person, so I'm gonna go to dinner, and then I'm gonna like I meet somebody else, and they're like, hey, let's throw this event together and go over here, And I just like ran it up as hard as I could, for about that first year and a half. And, from 2 years out of the military, I had done like 150 events in Austin, Texas. I had already been training on it for almost a year, left that, started my podcast. I was just like saying yes to everything I could.
Mhm.
And, that benefited me for a while where I was shaking a lot of hands and I was networking. And it's all these kind of blanket words that we use for like also giving a lot of energy away. And then I started to realize like the more I commit myself to, like I'm the type of guy that like I'm gonna do it all the way, you know. So I had to be really careful and learn how to set better boundaries, and really start to focus on like, hey, is this everything I'm doing? Is this really a priority? And is this in line with what I'm trying to achieve? So you don't spread yourself too thin. And like I said here in this second bullet, don't overcommit. This can also kind of be the pretense to not being able to focus, and you know you'll fail to bring anything of value to fruition if you just spread yourself too thin. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying?
Yep.
So and then also there's this factor of leaders tend to attract a lot of opportunities. So if you're a really sharp, kind of driven individual, who are people going to come to?
Yeah, I mean yeah, you're right. They're gonna come to,
They're going to want your they're going to
people that
want your
get stuff
support.
done.
Yeah, they're going to want your support. They're going to come to you with questions. And I think that's
Mhm.
a really good and healthy role to be in, and say, hey, like, you know, I've got 15 minutes, like let's discuss what you're working on, or hey, like I've got a free morning on Thursday. Like let's grab a coffee and you can bounce questions off me. But you don't have to extend yourself any farther than that, you know, like
Mhm.
people will take as much as they can get from you. And you know what, you got to really like learn how to kind of like navigate those scenarios where you know there's a lot of passion involved, or people are excited, or they want you around, and that can go both ways. But then I think it's really important to say, like, you know, several skills that you can develop is just like, hey, like let me sleep on it, let me get back to you, let me think about this, and then you have some space to where you can send them a text or shoot them an email, that says something along the lines of like, hey, like, you know, you've got my full support. I'm rooting for you. But right now, this is, or this isn't, you know, in line with, you know, my priorities. Or, you know, the biggest thing I've been saying lately is just like, hey, I'm maxed out. Like my bandwidth is tied up in my four jobs in this organization. You know, so it's like if you just
Mhm.
kind of redirect it and you can still let people know that you support them and you're there as a resource, and you don't just have to ghost them. You know, like how many
Right.
jobs have you applied for, or you know, like pitches have you done where you just don't hear back because people are afraid to communicate, that maybe they just don't have the time, which is fine,
Mhm.
you know. But I see it all the time where people avoid that conversation. It's something harder to do. In the end, it makes you feel better, and and you know it's empowering to know that you do have strong boundaries.
Mhm.
So number four, you owe it to yourself to get shit done. You really do, man. Like Nick, I know you. Like you're capable of a lot, you know, and I know you're a really nice guy, and like, you know, that can be your, like we discussed in lesson one, that can be, you know, your greatest strength, where you know like you're fun to be around, and people want you around. But then also you can give away too much energy. So
Mhm.
I think this lesson in particular, it'll help us develop, you know, an idea of who we are and what we want, and get really fucking clear on that. Because if you don't know and you don't take that time, then sometimes you can just get pulled off course even slightly. And
Mhm.
you know that can be, you know, an energy drain to like have to cut off those relationships, or you know, like, you know, just you might just get kind of stuck in that. So
Mhm.
I think this lesson will just kind of like highlight a few tools that, you know, will help you in that way. So develop a clear course of action. It's aligned with your values. We're going to go over that in a minute. And then also acquire the resources required to support yourself and those around you. And just like I said before, like it's okay to put yourself first, right? Especially when it comes to resources. Like it's really important to, you know, ensure that your bills are paid and your basic needs are taken care of, and that you've got
Mhm.
time to go for those runs, you know, or hit the gym. And then, you know, with what you have left, that's the energy that you can extend, and only as far as you're, you know, um, like willing to. and to a point where you're able to refill your own cup and get realigned with your values, and not just keep running, down that rabbit hole of passion and
Mhm.
opportunity, because there's opportunity everywhere. The other thing is to be patient. Like, this is a process. Like, this is something that I have to focus on every day. Like, I gotta reassess my priorities. I gotta go back through my to-do list, and I gotta ensure that I'm not, committing to too many things. Not saying yes to a lot of things that are, taking my energy away from what I want to get done.
Mhm.
Until I'm at a sustainable point where, I've got extra energy and extra time. And that's where that I think you can really help others. So, in line with that, I think it's really important to develop a healthy support system, and I hope that, Integrate can kind of serve with that for some guys that, they've got their work environment or they're living in another city. I hope that Integrate can be that support system where, guys can talk about what they're dealing with, what they're going through. But also, like, in your day-to-day life, like, maybe this is your friend Austin, maybe this is, one to two other people that, you know have your best interests at heart, and that's really important. That's something that I really struggled with as I got out of the military. Was I always want to see the best in everyone, and I'm sure you're the same. Like, I want to bring that out,
Mhm.
so sometimes I miss a lot of red flags of people that, like, aren't quite there, don't quite have the awareness that, they're taking more energy than they should.
Right.
And, codependence can form in a lot of different relationships. So,
Mhm.
um, and then also, like, sometimes strong leaders and strong individuals attract people that are, they're broken, and like that, like I said earlier, like that can be, you know a strong suit where you can say, hey, like, I'm going to show you, what I've learned and what I'm doing, and like, I can get you back on track, but you don't, take on their energy. And there's got to be a lot of awareness around that. And this is the biggest thing. It's your social responsibility to maintain a grounded mental, emotional, physical presence to create space for meaningful connections. Um, I think this is really important. Like, it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of maintenance, to truly ground yourself, right? And if you're
Mhm.
not mentally clear and emotionally aware, and if physically you're anxious and spread thin, and, like, fighting all that off, or, dealing with your own mental health battles, um, I think interactions and relationships can become very surface level.
Mhm.
And I know we've all seen it, right? It's like, when somebody's just getting by, like, you're not going to have a very deep connection with them, are you? It's like, if someone's, in a position where you can't reach them, or they're not really listening, or they're distracted, like, that's not going to be the individual that can really, sit with someone, give them the attention they deserve, and,
Right.
be there for them. Um, and then this last one, do not compromise. So I want to do an entire lesson on this. Like, the word compromise changed my life, man. Like, there's something about, um, the word compromise and the way that I was brought up and the way that I thought, um, compromise was carried out. I thought it was a good trait to have. Um, and I later learned that with compromise, so let's use an example here. Let's say, um, you know, I'm really busy next week, but, like, I don't really feel like I can give, a full day to hanging out with somebody, right? So I say, hey, let's grab coffee, on Thursday for an hour, right? Like, that doesn't seem like a big deal,
Mhm.
but there's something about a compromise that I think you'll kind of see some of the trends from the last lesson, where, um, when you compromise, people don't understand or respect what you're giving up, right? Because they don't know, right?
Right.
People don't know what they don't know. So that's can kind of form a dynamic where people start to take advantage of that energy. And the
Right.
thing about compromise is whether it's coming from the best place in your heart or, like there's some other intention behind it. If you compromise, then the way that people will interpret that is that you're not being true to yourself. So when you compromise and you give a little, that actually turns into mistrust because they can tell that you're not showing up fully as yourself, right? It's an energy thing, right?
Mm.
It can kind of be a vibe where it's like, oh, well, they don't want to commit to a full day, but they kind of want to be here for an hour. And then, like, well, I just got that much from them. I can probably get something else. So I want to go over that a lot more as we get deeper into the content.
Mhm.
But that's a huge word for me, compromise, something to take note of. All right. So the first lesson today is going to be defining our values. So our values can be used as a guiding compass, right? This can be the thing that, if we're giving too much energy away or we're not getting what we feel like we should be done, then we can always come back to the short list of things that we know we want, right? These are the things that, make us feel good. They're in line with what it is that we're trying to achieve. And when we're really clear on what it is that we value, then we can, make sure that everything is in line with that. So again, you'll have access to this presentation after the call today. I'll be sending everything out in a recap tomorrow. But these may be some good questions to reference so you can take, some time and journal and create a list of what your values look like. But I kind of wanted to go through some and just see what we come up with together, and then take it from there.
Awesome.
So, all right. So let's kind of go through some of these values. All right. So, who am I? That's a big question, right? So I kind of want you to rattle off like the first thing that comes to mind when I prompt you with these questions. Okay. So let's talk about like who am I? I know that's a big question, but
Yeah.
let's paint with a broad brush here and try to kind of dial it in. Like that's a big question to ask yourself.
Hmm.
And it could start like I'm Nick, you know. Like let's
Yeah.
let's start simple.
So like my just like at first initial thing that pops in my head is like, I try to be um I don't want to say like nice to everybody. That's probably not the right word, but kind of like going back to last week, like kind of like you were saying, like being you can kind of be cool with everybody. Um I don't know, that's like the first thing that kind of comes into my head is just like I'm typically in a good mood. I'm always, hey man, what's going on? How you doing? Which I know that's not everything, but that's kind of the first thing that I guess comes in mind.
Absolutely. No, these are good, man. Um, so I'm gonna say I'm nice, I'm in a good mood, and I'm welcoming. You want other people to feel welcome.
Yeah, and if I were to think like, if what I would want people in a perfect world, not to say that everyone does, if I wanted people like to think something of me, like maybe those are things that I would want them to think. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I mean, those are all really good traits, and like there's always two sides to the coin. Like we got into, with the archetypes last week, there's always,
Hmm.
the light side and the shadow side.
Hmm.
But I think it's important to define these things and get really clear on them. And these are really good. Like this can give you a really good track, like kind of guide of, if something makes you feel like you can't be nice, then maybe you're off your path. Maybe you're not in the right work environment. You're not around the right people.
Right.
Or if you're out at a bar or something and like you're overwhelmed and there's people around you don't like and you don't feel like you're being nice, then that's obviously something that's not in line with where you should be at that time or what you should be doing and what you're not getting the most out of this life. So let's go over, what do I want? Like, what are some things that you want?
Okay, so I was actually jotting notes on this. So I think I probably need to reflect on this for a little bit longer, but so one big one I think is financial freedom, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
huge.
I'm not saying I gotta be rich, but I know what
Yeah,
it's
it'll
like
be
to be like,
comfortable.
oh fuck, do I have enough money to pay the rent?
Oh
That
yeah,
shit ain't fun.
it's not.
And so, I think to some degree, like, oh, I mean, everybody probably gonna have that, but yeah, I mean, it's a big deal, and as I've kind of gotten older too, that's something that's kind of gotten a little more on my mind, of like, well, that would be cool, but it's not worth stressing about.
Yeah,
And so kind of weighing like how much would I love this versus how much is it going to stress me out,
right. Yeah. No,
Um,
that's huge, man. And
and
those are all
odds
the right
are it's like it's
questions.
probably not worth it.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And then like, and nobody's gonna take care of you like you take care of you. So you gotta be sure, to ask for these things, right?
yeah.
It's like, especially with these first few, right?
Hmm.
If if you're too nice and you're in a business transaction, then you're like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like I'll like I got you on this. I'll just volunteer my time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like that
Yeah.
can put you in a point where like your rent's not paid, but you're trying to be nice, trying to help somebody, and you actually have to do the work to, start to focus on like, hey, can I do this in a different way where I can win, they can win, and like these resources flow to me,
Yeah.
because like money, especially money is just energy, right? And like if someone has, money and they really respect you and they want your help, they're probably willing to pay for it.
Hmm.
So that's something to work on, is to believe in your value, and ensure that you're setting that expectation, and that you're asking for someone else to value your time. You see how I just shifted that and reworded that
Right.
into like, a value transaction
Hmm.
where, I respect my time, I know my worth, and so I'm going to set the expectation that my time is important to me and that it's worth this much, right? And maybe on the
Right.
backside, I'm recognizing that, I need this much to eat. I need this much to pay my rent.
Hmm.
I don't need to, ask for, $10,000 for an hour, but I need something.
Yeah.
So, and that's a tough one, man. That takes time. It takes a lot of time. But all
Yep.
right, let's go into what am I good at?
Okay. Well, actually, so I got a couple more written down here just that I thought off the top of my head for like, what do I want?
Hmm.
So one thing that I wrote down was like respected by peers.
I like that.
Because man, I see it all the time, you kind of have a couple different groups of people. You kind of got um, you got just your studs, where everybody
Hmm.
knows like that guy's fucking awesome. He's
Yeah.
technically sound, he's good at what he does, like just across the board. You
Right.
got most people who are somewhere in the middle, and then you have on the opposite end of the spectrum, people are like, "Fuck that guy, he ain't worth the shit."
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, I mean,
Struggling.
it's not something I necessarily lose sleep over, but I definitely do. I mean, I oftentimes like I think about this a lot, and I'm like, man, I work my ass off, especially like so, doing what I'm doing now, being in the oil refinery. Man, before this, I'd never worked industrial a day in my life, and so very, very extremely steep learning curve. And I
Yeah.
think there is some of that, imposter syndrome kind of going on. But it's like you go into a room with a bunch of people and everybody's having a conversation, and you're like, did I miss something?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so, and obviously, I don't necessarily think that. people expect me at my, like level per se to know everything. But it's always in the back of your mind. There, yeah, you're like, God, these people probably think I'm so stupid, you know.
Yeah.
So I think part of a motivation to like really, really like work hard is that respected by peers thing. I think it's important, because I don't want to go to work and be like, I don't give a fuck what people think if I suck or not, because there are people that
Yeah.
try to pretend that, and I'm like, man, that would bother me if people legitimately thought I wasn't good at what I do.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good one. I would say like I care, like you want to care. Like that
Yeah.
may be a value for you is like that I really care about the things that I do and that I put my energy into.
Hmm.
And I think if you really focus on that and start to answer some of these questions, like building a strong foundation for strong decision making, then that's going to translate into respect. If you know your process and how you work and you're open to learning and you communicate like, hey, like, this is a new industry for me. I'm still learning, but that I'm gonna do the best damn job that I can.
Right.
Then that's gonna turn into respect and trust. For me,
Yeah.
I know that respect and trust are some of those top three values right there. Like
Hmm.
if I don't have respect, trust, and loyalty, like what are we doing here? Like there's
Yeah.
no relationship for me if like I don't have that, right? That could
Yeah.
be
100%.
social, that could be professional. If you don't trust what I'm bringing to the table, then like we're both wasting our time and like let's go our separate ways. So I think you're tracking on that, man, and then like
And
I'd be excited to see what you can really kind of dial this in as.
yeah, and
Um,
then I guess the last thing that I wrote down on the paper, and I don't necessarily know if this thought was complete, but I just put ability to remain calm. So I guess kind of where I'm going with this is man, it's easier said than done. Like it all sounds just like, we'll sit here and talk about like when shit hits the fan, yada yada yada, but then, you know, um I mean, I catch myself all the time, like, dude, you got to calm down. And I'm not like a overly anxious person really, but when you're kind of, in those positions where, shit's getting a little crazy and you're overwhelmed, like being able to like slow down, you
yeah,
know, like take it easy because like people know when you're like going out of control.
yeah,
And I've gotten there, and so and again it kind of like you have to bring yourself back in. And so it's something that I work on and I've gotten a lot better, for sure. But that doesn't mean that, I'm not gonna, in the future, like, because it seems like it kind of comes in waves, and once you get over one of those waves, you kind of look back and you're like, okay, that wasn't that bad until, the next time it's a little more and a little more, a little more, and so um being able to weather the storm, calm, cool, and collected, man, I think is a personality trait that I am 100% trying to have.
yeah. No, and that's good, man. That awareness goes a long way. I think we all want that, and I think the solution is often much simpler than maybe where we start, right? So, if our goal is to be able to manage stress, intense or, chaotic situations, like you have to be aware of what's happening around you, but hyper aware of what you can control, right? The biggest thing that I learned, throughout like during buds and in SEAL training was this conversation of living in your 3 foot world, right? Do you remember them going over that? So it's
Yeah,
like
just kind of like, yeah,
basically like you can only control what's within 3 feet, right?
right.
That's something you can grab or touch. And if you can focus on that, like maybe that's one conversation with one individual that can help you, like delegate or go get somebody to help out some situation. or something you can grab and work on, like that's your world, right? Whatever you can control, and that's very like that helps focus on something that it simplifies very chaotic and complex situations, right? So yeah, I think that's definitely a good value. And I think as you kind of gain awareness around like what some of these top things are, like
Mhm.
it'll help you be more calm, and say like,
Mhm.
hey, like I want to be in a good mood and I want to be respected and I want to be available to my team and I want them to be able to count on me. Okay, what do I have to do right now to make that happen? And you just chip away at that, right?
Right.
Just one task at a time, doing it to the best of your ability. But, if someone comes and tries to take your energy away from that and you say, hey, man, like I've got so much going on, you don't even understand. Like, and you kind of get caught up in that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can have that conversation another way that says, hey, like I've already got this on my plate and like I need to get this done first. And, like when I'm done, like I'll come by your desk or I'll come by your office and we can have a chat, see how I can help, and that
Right.
gives you the ability to remain focused on what you got to do, but
Mhm.
you're not walking away from what you got to do and just kind of like swallowing, like what you really wanted to say and compromising again, right? See the trend here?
Mhm.
You're remaining focused on the task at hand because that's what you need to do to be the best person that you can be. So this is great. So let's go over. We're going to touch on some of these. I just put these as examples. So some of these are kind of getting into the next section, which we'll go ahead and get into here in a minute. Um, let's see. And I'd like you to reference these, in journal and keep writing things down. And then we'll go over here in a minute, like how you can kind of start to cut them down. All right.
Mhm.
So we're gonna go over three tools. So what this does for me, and like you may love this, you may hate this, but it's at least trending the right direction. That like you're simplifying what it is that you got to do and what's like making up your schedule and what you're delegating and allocating your time to, right? So we're having to make decisions throughout that process, and some of these things can help us do that. All right, so let's get into the first one. All right, so this is a really cool tool. It's just more of like a kind of a visual like cue on what you're doing in your day to day. So take me through like what the majority of your day um, consists of. Like how do you start your day? And let's kind of go through a normal day. Um, let's go through a work day and how you kind of spend your time.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm usually up pretty early just because I mean I get to work early. So I usually get up like 4:30, 4:45, somewhere in there. And just get ready out the door. I usually not up, an hour and a half early to cook breakfast and, do a lot of that. I just kind of wake up and go. And then get to work. So one thing about being at work early is there usually is a little bit of time before things kind of get a little hectic.
Hmm.
Um, so honestly, there's no like real. I mean, no day might be the same, but usually that first, hour or so will be when I'll sit down, kind of go through some emails. Maybe it's I go in the office and I'm just chit chatting with people. Maybe it's I'm sitting on Amazon. Like it's no set thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So get to work early.
yeah, but that it's like kind of seems like that first hour I'm like almost getting warmed up.
Yeah.
And then from there, man, I mean it just we got our morning meeting. And then from there it's really just what's going on that day. I'll look at my calendar. I try to stay out of meetings if I can avoid it. But I mean, there are, some just I got to get to. But good thing for me is I spend a lot of time out in the field, and so there's really like it's kind of just on me like to manage my work day. I'll have whatever meetings might be on my schedule, and outside of that, it's just kind of like do your stuff. Like I mean, nobody's telling you how to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you
So
take like do you try to bring your lunch or like cook for
so
yourself or
yeah, so actually one thing I like to do personally is I I like to get out of there for a little bit at lunch.
Mhm.
Um, this doesn't always happen, but even if I bring my lunch, a lot of times like I'll wolf it down real quick, and then man, I'll just go do a circle around town in my truck.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Just because it gives me like a little break. Especially on the days where I'm like, holy shit,
Yeah.
And it's like I can almost take one day and split it in two.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so and sometimes too, I'll try to attack it as like, okay, I have one 10-hour day with a lunch in the middle, and I can split this up and get 2 days out of it. So morning time I'll be focused on, this, and then maybe in the afternoon I have a bunch of meetings, so that's a good time to do like office work, meetings, that type of thing.
Do you try to get all your work done and not take anything home, or you kind of like are there things that you push to the
So
evening
I'm
or
not really a take it home thing, and that's
that's good.
mostly because there's really not much to take home. It's all
Yeah.
it's construction, right? And so um most of it is happening in the plant. It's out in the field, or it's like face to face interaction. Like I need to have a meeting to get this answered, or now if there was something that's like time sensitive, I mean, I would probably just stay and get it done.
Yeah.
So I'm not really, I don't really like bring my work home, no.
Cool. All right, good. Um, what about like after work? What's your, post work kind of routine look like?
So I'm usually get back here and then pretty much I try to just get straight out the door to the gym or go run. Because if I sit around in here, it gets like harder and harder every minute. So I just try to like boom, I'm gone.
Yeah, I feel you. So stay moving. Um, and then after you go to the gym and run, what do you focus on?
I'll eat and then it's either chill or talk on the phone for an hour, like just catching up with buddies or whatever. Like people will call, throughout the day, I mean, it's not every day, but if people call me and I miss them, or like a lot of times, like me and my buddies, we just chit chat, at night. So
Yeah, that's good.
then I'm usually, so just say like I'm just hanging out after that. I'm probably in bed by 10 ish.
Cool. Yeah, so go to bed on time early. All right. So this is a quick and easy tool um, to kind of get back to like some of your original goals. So um, maybe we expand this like values and goals, right?
Mhm.
So let's say that, you know, in your day, like you like to get up early, right? So this is something as I put here. So identify task commitments that are in line with your values. These things are these are the things in life that fill your cup and give you life. These commitments help you achieve your short-term and long-term goals. And that cut off. So I'm not sure what that was supposed to say. But all right. So it sounds like you know how you like your day to kind of progress. Like you've already recognized that you don't want to sleep in and rush to work and then get there right before your morning meeting, and just get smacked in the face by your day, right?
Right.
So I would say like you would take a green marker or pen, and you would just mark that like this is in line with my values, right? I need to get up early so that I have time to kind of get ready for the day. I want to get to work early, like so I have time to kind of get in the zone and like warm
Mhm.
up, like you were saying, chit chat with people and kind of get your groove going before the day starts. So again, this is a green value that I like to start my day slow. So an example would be like if you notice a trend where you're getting up later than you should, and you feel kind of rushed in the morning, like that's something that you need to write down and mark red, right? Because you're not in line with what's important to you, right? One of your values is, to be in a good mood, and probably these three things right here probably dictate whether you're in a good mood or not, right? And I know that from experience. Like if I sleep and like miss my alarm and like roll straight into a meeting and I'm a little overwhelmed, like I'm probably not going to be in a good mood, right?
Right.
So whatever's causing that is a red task or a red, you know, habit. It could be
Yeah.
anything. So that's why I think it's
Probably goes
really
back to the night before, you know.
exactly what was I doing? Okay, did I stay up later? Did I, go out drinking, whatever it may be. So I think it's important to track all of our habits and see how we're allocating our time and ensure that, it's still in line with how we're trying to show up. And you'll start to notice, things that, like that are taking energy. So let's say it's the meetings, right? And you're saying yes to every team meeting, and you know that you don't have to be in these meetings, and you're not getting what you need to get done, right? So maybe one Tuesday out of the week you gave away too much time, and you sat in a meeting that didn't pertain to you, and you felt behind, right? That would be something to make a note of, right? So that meeting would be a red line, all right.
Mhm.
Um, so manage my own schedule, right? So maybe you've got, a boss over you that's kind of like micromanaging you, and they're not like really letting you off the leash because, they don't feel that you're ready or not, and you feel like you're ready, right? So that could be something that like you just need to communicate like, hey man, like, I think I got this under control, with my working style and like how I make decisions. I need a little more space, right? So that's totally a viable conversation to have in a professional environment. But if you're not having that conversation, then it can kind of start to be a drag. Have you experienced that?
Um, no, personally, no. Like, I honestly,
That's
I
good.
think, yeah, like I said, like kind of going back to like I kind of drive my own work.
Mhm.
Man, I have a really, really, really good boss, man. He is a
That's
stud.
awesome.
He
Yeah.
doesn't micromanage. He gives you, I don't want to say like he throws you in the fire and you know, I wouldn't say like gives you more than he thinks you can handle, but he gives you more than like you personally are ready to handle, but he's not going to let you fail, you know?
Hmm.
But so yeah, I mean, I think he checks in on you, man. Like he'll, his doors open if you need him, but I mean, he's not up my ass all day, you know?
That's good, man. That's a good leader right there. It's the way it should be. That's awesome, man. Well, let's keep going through these. So yeah, manage my own schedule. I know that's important to me. I need to take a lunch break, right? Get my work done during the working hours. Um, I need to hit the gym or go for that run, right? Is there anything that would cause you to not hit the gym or not go on that run?
Um, hmm. Think about it for a minute. So if I if for whatever reason I were to like come home and
Hmm.
just not get on it in a reasonable amount of time, I'm probably not going to do it at 10 o'clock at night. And
Yeah.
the reason is not necessarily because I'm just trying to be lazy, but I have found that, like, for example, when I was in college, man, dude, I could stay up to 2 o'clock in the morning. It didn't fucking phase me.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, I'd go out, drink beers, come home, do homework. I
Yeah.
mean, whatever, and then we're dragging to work at 6 a.m. the next morning.
Hmm.
And like since I've moved out here, like that has just completely shifted. Um, and so like I get that's a stressor of mine. Like if I know that like, you know, it's 10:30 at night and I'm not tired, I start getting stressed out, because I'm like tomorrow's gonna be fucked up,
Yeah. I
And
mean, you're
and
probably
as I've
like
gotten
me, where
away
like,
from that, like, oh, only sleep, 3 hours a night, like seemed like that was like the Navy, just drink a 12 pack, stay up till 3 and wake up at, 4:30 and go to work. But
yeah,
I have like completely shifted away from that. And so
that's good.
I think to your original question, like if for whatever reason, like I come home and it doesn't happen like in a pretty short amount of time, like if I get home at 5 and it's 7:30 and I haven't gone to the gym, like that would probably be the reason I don't go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for whatever reason, like I waited, I don't know, but.
Yeah. So I would say like one of your green tasks that makes you feel good and gives you life, um, and is in line with your values is getting a workout in after work, right? So
Mhm.
let's say some days if you have a tougher day at work or something and you have a tendency to like get home, kick your shoes off and procrastinate, like that may be a tendency that you need to be aware of, that's getting in the way of you doing something healthy for yourself, that you really know you should be doing, and you want to do, and you always feel better and sleep better, whatever it may be after. Like for me, like I work out during the day so I can sleep at night. Like sometimes I have a very active mind at night, but
Right.
if I'm physically exhausted from my workouts, I crash and I sleep like a little baby, right? So I would say that workout, is a green task, but a tendency to procrastinate or kind of drag your feet after you get home is a red task. So on days that that happens, you know, don't don't kick yourself, don't judge yourself. Like maybe you're just tired and you need a day off. That's fine. But if you see a trend and you see a pattern, I think that's where it's important to highlight it, maybe underline it red and say, "Hey, this happened today. Like where can I do better tomorrow, or
Right.
next week?" So I think this is a tool just like the next one. We're about to get into another tool as well that also helps with this habit tracking, kind of like tool is when you're feeling good and you're getting the things done, there's not you don't need to be as like committed to this practice or these tools. It's when things start to get a little off or you're kind of falling off or maybe you're like just kind of dragging ass or like I don't know if you struggle with depression at all or anything, but if I start to see my momentum declining, I don't really try to like, well, I do face it head on, but I try to look at my habits that are
Mhm.
equating to that. What am I not doing or what am I doing too much of, that's affecting me in this way? And like when something feels off, usually you just got to implement change. So maybe that's hitting a short workout when you're going to have a busy day before work. If that was a reality, that may not work for you, but something to be aware of there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And we're gonna get into this in a second too. So, but you're kind of seeing like I want to touch on like catch up with buddies at the end of the day. That's a really healthy task and part of your day that I'm sure is really brings you life and reminds you who you are and you check in with people that you care about and people that you love. And I think I think you're a social creature, so that's really important. So that's definitely a big one. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of this is just start using colors and start to track like what's really working for you.
Mhm.
And like myself, for myself, I use a lot more colors than green and red. So, one job on my to-do list, my Google Calendar will be red, and another job is purple. All of my integrate stuff is yellow. All of my free time, I try to do like a light blue, so I know where my social kind of energy is going. And when I look at my calendar, um, I can kind of see a trend of like where my energy is going based off of the colors, right?
Right.
So if do you keep a calendar?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So like try to keep a calendar and like try to associate some colors with different things and make sure that you're not completely out of balance where you're just working and you're missing your workouts and you're not calling your friends. Like let's for example, if work was orange and
Mhm.
my social time was purple and I looked at my month and I had no purple and a ton of orange, I know all I'm doing is working, right?
Right.
So maybe I
No.
could look at that and be like, "Hey, I need some more purple."
Yeah, so that's what I was just about to ask because like so when I say I have a calendar, so I use my Outlook calendar at
Mhm.
work. So I guess I have a during working hours calendar,
Okay.
you know. And obviously I could put whatever on there. It's not like it's limited to working hours, but it's like the only things that I fill in there are during working hours. Simply just because like it if somebody invites me to something or whatever, it just automatically goes on there. But B, if I need to do something at a certain time, I go ahead and like block that out just so that way somebody doesn't, bust down my door and
Doesn't
be like,
get filled.
they see, oh shit, he's doing something right now. I'll come back later.
Exactly.
But I wouldn't say that and I've thought about this before. I wouldn't say I've ever like successfully done it more than maybe like a day or something, but like when I'm not at work, like blocking out those hours, like the weekend. But I mean, just to be honest with you, like come the week, I mean, I'm really I feel like I'm just not that busy. Like I
Yeah.
work out, I run, I go to the grocery store, and man, that's kind of it. Which I know
Yeah.
sounds super lame, but like since I've moved out here, it's just I don't have a lot going on, when I'm not at work.
No, I mean, like, and if that's where you wanna be because you're trying to get financially secure and, you're taking pride in your work, um, and you have the space where you're calling friends and catching up, like, there's nothing wrong there, like, it sounds like you're taking care of business and doing your job and, like, you're just in that stage of life. I'm kinda the
Yeah.
same, it's
Well,
like I gotta create space and realize like, "Hey, man, I'm due, like, I should go out, like, I haven't been out in, like, a month," you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe
yeah.
I should call some friends and go to dinner
Well,
or, drive over to Austin and visit Evan or something, you know what I'm saying?
I tell you,
So
man, that's like, something that pretty like I would say recently has kind of like started to come up in my personal life is, you know, dude, all my adult life I've been surrounded by a bunch of fucking dudes, like my best
yeah,
bro, just the homies, um, like in the Navy, like I mean, I know me and probably you too, like, you meet some of your best friends. And then fast forward, I was lucky. I got out, went to school, but I was roommates with two guys I grew up with, and I mean, we're
yeah,
all just super tight, and so it's just kind of like the party never ended.
yeah,
And then I come out here, and then boom, man, it's like a 180. Everybody I work with is old, grumpy, married, divorced three
yeah,
times, grandkids. Like I don't socialize with people really outside of work. Like I don't.
yeah,
It's not that type of environment. And
yeah,
honestly, like the because like obviously like there are younger people out there like they're working for the contractors or whatever, but it's it's strange, man. Like it's the officer versus enlisted dynamic, like they got their guard up, like nobody wants to be cool with me. And it's like I try to like and it takes time to build that trust, but I'm like, dude, I'm not here to fuck you, I'm here to
Yeah,
help you out. Like you're the one turning the wrench, brother. Like, I'm here to just support you with whatever you need, but so for a long time, I've just kind of chalked it up as like, well, it's a good time to get focused. It's a good time to quit messing around and be serious, and which I do think, is it is, but on the other side of that, I kind of look back at the last year and I'm like, dude, what the fuck have I done for the last year? Like
right.
I outside of like going to work every day, I'm like, I don't even know, man. Like it's like sometimes I think, so that kind of dynamic of like turning it on and just being all about work, but then also like finding ways to live your damn life too,
I hear you, man. No, I definitely do. And like, I think there's something there's something to say about like, all right, yeah, like in college, I was burning it down. I had all these buddies around me, and like, we were just a bunch of bros, and we were out. Like we can idealize that. You know, we can idealize the past. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? It's like sometimes we can look back and remember all the good times, but also like, for example, like maybe, you were going out and you're kind of tired of it, or you didn't feel good physically and you wanted,
Oh yeah.
you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
fuck man, like I'm ready to graduate and go to work. Like, if you really think back to that time, like I'm sure there were things that you wanted and values that you weren't fulfilling, that you are now. And you're already recognizing that, like, damn, I kind of miss, having a good group of guys, or having, more opportunities to socialize or something. So, I think if you know that that's important to you and that's, in line with your values, like, one, this period of life in this phase is forcing you to grow in ways outside of what you had, you know
Yeah.
um and it'll continue to kind of force you to grow, in how you attract friends or how you communicate, or you know
Yeah.
like you're saying, those dynamics at work where it's like, man, like we could probably be friends, but you've got some like pretense of this dynamic or whatever. Like, maybe if somebody's a runner, or somebody at work, goes on a run as your age, like just be like, hey man, like let's fucking go for a run after work and like put all this bullshit behind us,
Yeah.
and like take it from there. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I know you like to go to the gym. Let's go hit a workout. Let somebody see you outside of that work environment, and see where it goes. Don't force anything. Don't be like, hey, let's hang out every day now and like, be
Yeah.
best buds because I need a best bud. Like, no, like take it slow, like, and just try to open that door, when you see somebody that is a similar age, or something there. But so I kind of wanted to go kind of what I was talking about, with work. I don't want to use red, because red is misalignment now, right? So we've kind of got that note that red is something that we want less of, right? The guy that I heard speak about, this green versus red, is, it took him 3 years to go from a schedule where there was a lot of red on his schedule, where he was, allocating time to things that weren't really serving him or weren't helping him build his business. Um, and then it took him 3 years, and now everything he does is green. Like he doesn't take trips with people that, he, isn't in line with, or they're not into similar things. Like now there's nothing that goes on his schedule that isn't green, because he knows what he wants and he's clear on his values. So
Mm.
see how that could be healthy.
Yep.
So let's say like, 5 a.m. to 7 a.m., like you're doing all of these three things: getting up early, getting to work early, starting my day slow. Like that's all green, right? And then like we're in work mode from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. or whatever your work mode is. um So that's all blue. And then, you want to get your workout in, go on that run. So that could be green. And then like let's use black here. This is the time that you want to catch up with friends and family, or grab a beer, or go to dinner with a friend or something, right?
Mhm.
So we can already see how we're spending our time, right? So if I know that like I have like only blue, or only black, and I don't feel like I'm getting shit done, like then things visually are out of balance. So I think that's where like our to-do list and our calendar and everything we're keeping there can give us a visual reference, um, to look back on,
Mhm.
when we're feeling out of whack, or we don't feel like our energy has been being spent in the best way. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah,
So
that's cool.
dope. All right, I want to get into this one. This is another cool one. So this diagram, originally, my friend Pat, he's also a vet. We were having a conversation one day, and he talked about this PIES chart. It was PIES. So that was physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual, right? So that was basically a quadrant, um, of your habits throughout the day to ensure that you're maintaining balance in your life. And you could really swap these words out for anything that's really important for you.
Uh,
But I think this is a really good tool, to realize, like how we're spending our time. And again, it's a visual reference, um, that can, you know, help us start to get a visual, uh, like kind of depiction of how we're spending our time each day. Right. So let's go through these real quick. So, um, physical, right? So, what are some physical things that you do throughout the day, that relate to your body, and you know give you life?
workout, run. I don't know if you would put like, try to eat decent in there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eat clean, eat decent.
Yeah.
All right, so those are good examples. Um, I don't know what your spiritual preference, or if you're religious or anything, but this is important, like very important to some. They go to church every Sunday, or they pray every day. Do you have any spiritual practices?
Yeah, so again, this is another thing, man. Like raised in church my whole life. You know, and I mean, I definitely like, believe in God and everything. And as I've, kind of gotten older, it's like it's been more of like a thought, whereas for a long time, which I mean, I think it's probably normal for a lot of, you know, 20-year-olds to kind of
Get
drift
away
away
from
a
it.
little bit. And it's not that I'm, out there preaching to people, or even, like
Right.
even bringing it up, because I know like, oh shit, like, I'm not necessarily living a Christian lifestyle, but like if I were to like again kind of going back to who am I, who would I want people to think I am, like I feel like that would be something that's up there, you know what I mean? Even though I'm not like necessarily doing that.
Yeah. Well, then I mean, that's something to recognize, right? So
Yeah.
that's why I like this chart, is because, like, let's say I do this every day for a week, right? And on Monday, I don't pray, or I don't meditate, or whatever your spiritual practice is, right? It could be, I like to go to a coffee shop and talk to, a friend about God. Like this could all fill that spiritual, um, like slot, in this chart, right? So let's say, like I like to pray, right? So maybe this is like a 10-minute, or let's say 5-minute prayer, 10-minute prayer. That's a long prayer. The 5 minutes, um, of prayer, and mindfulness, or whatever the practice is. It could be, you know, I like to meditate. You know, I I like to meditate daily. I don't always meditate daily. So, if I drew this chart for a week straight and I realized that I missed it 5 days in a row, that'd be
Uh-huh.
something to take note of, right?
Mhm.
So communal, like give me an example of something that's communal for you.
I
Just
mean, I think that's
a sense of community.
yeah, like I think that could be I mean, even just at work, just
Hmm.
not necessarily talking work, but just, hanging out bullshitting with people.
Yeah.
Or talking with, people on the phone, or you know, just any type of like social interaction. I'm trying to think of like how you would word this, but I guess I would think like any type of like social interaction with like outside of just like surface level stuff
Yeah.
that's not work, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, like this might be something that's kind of missing right now outside of work too, So like you might, get a little bit of it at work when you've got some extra time, you're chopping it up and catching up. But like this may be something where you're like, damn, like I would like to have a sense of community outside of work. So
Right.
this might be blank right now, and that's okay. This is a tool for reference. This isn't, a tool for you to say like, oh, I need this right now, and I need to be dedicating,
Yeah.
3 hours a day to community. Like that may or may not work with whatever phase of life you're in.
Right.
So,
Well,
um,
I'll tell you too, man, like something I was thinking about a while back. So I put this big calendar up on my wall. It's huge, like,
mhm,
and I started like filling in throughout the year, like, okay, I got this, like, okay, I know I got this work stuff here, and then just like, oh, marathon here, and then I was kind of looking at it, and um, I was like, man, like it's not going to fill up itself, and so like kind of going back to like, man, I'm just get out of work and outside of working out, I don't do anything, and it's like, well, fuck, quit feeling sorry for yourself and go figure it out, and it
yeah,
sounds so weird and awkward for me to say because I've never had to do it, but the idea of like trying to make friends,
yeah,
like I've
yeah,
never had to like consciously think about, oh, I want to go try to make a friend, and I
yeah,
almost like it's almost like it's cringy to me, but like when I
yeah.
when
It's
I think about it,
uncomfortable.
the communal aspect, it's like, well, maybe that is something like in this phase of my life, like maybe I should be doing,
Hmm.
just because lack thereof.
Yeah, I mean, like this is all working towards balance, right? If you feel like you need more community around you to be, a healthier, more balanced individual, then that awareness and that intention and whatever you do to make that happen is going to go a long way, right? And like that'll be an empowering, like confidence building kind of like phase of life to be like, damn, like I don't have something and I'm gonna have to create that for myself for the first time ever. Right. And like it's a hard thing to do. Like there's nothing easy about it, especially if you're, isolated or you feel like you're kind of like just, surrounded by, work peers and stuff all the time and you're kind of missing, good old days and you had college friends or whatever. Like there is no easy solution, but the awareness and intention goes a long way. So like right now, like let's just kind of like let's cut work and job out of here, and let's acknowledge that, this communal, and this is, extreme example, but this communal blank, this slot right here is empty. You know what I'm saying? So, which may be fine, like I said, but it's something to take note of. All
Yeah.
right. So let's do intellectual. So, this is what are you reading, studying? Um, are you having uh, like your phone calls with your buddies in the evenings? Like, are y'all talking about life or philosophizing or anything? Or are you just shooting the shit or?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
honestly,
what are you learning?
I have a pretty fair, good bit of this, because so I like to read.
Yeah,
Yeah, like my buddies, like we do spend a lot of time, like, it's kind of funny, like kind of like I'm always like hyping you up. Same shit with my friends, like, dude, how do we get to the next fucking level,
yeah,
How do you win, like, and when you get around like really good people, like how do you, take it to the next level, or your buddies are studs and you're like, dude, fuck, I gotta get better.
yeah. No, I like that, man. Like, and yeah, let's say you read 30 minutes a night, before you go to bed or something, or maybe in your truck during your lunch break or something like that. And then this one is tough for guys like us, emotional, right? Like this is something that I feel like I've been doing a better job lately, but maybe for a year or two, probably my first couple of years out of the military, this was one of the hardest blocks for me to fill out,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't really want to think about it. I didn't really want to like explain my emotions. I didn't really want to like focus on where I could grow emotionally because I'm just like, fuck it. Like I got me, I'm locked in, I've got a plan, I'm active, I'm working out. Like for me, for example, my first year and a half in the military, I could hardly get out of this physical block. I would run out of space on the page talking about what I did physically. You know? Like I woke up, I went for a run and then I, trained clients and then I worked out and then I like ate a good lunch and like then I did some push-ups and went for a walk and like see how everything is physical,
Yeah.
right? And then intellectual, I was like, man, I don't really need to read right now. Like I feel good, but like I realized like to be balanced, I needed to make these other things a priority, right? So there's been phases where my entire existence has been communal, where I was just like always around other people and like throwing parties and throwing events. And, I was at the gym working out with, 10, 12 people at a time, right? So my physical and my communal block would be abundant, but
Mhm.
my spiritual, emotional, and intellectual blocks may be completely empty, right?
Right.
And I know I feel better when I do all five of these things, right? So, and like we have to be adaptable. We have to be, willing to make changes and recognize where we're falling off or where we're falling, short. If these things are important to us, and I think if you do all five of these things in a single day, that's a pretty goddamn good day.
Yeah, you can
You know
sleep
what I'm
good.
saying? Like, yeah, you're gonna lay your head down at night and be like, damn, like I really did everything that I want to do. And I think I can do that again tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I think like I said here, number four, imbalances are okay unless you're experiencing any issues. Then it is a good reference seeing where you may be off. Right. So again, visually, just like we did with the colors, you can see where the majority of the ink is on your page, right? If you draw out this spice diagram and several of these blocks are completely full and a couple of them are empty and you don't feel very good or you're not like you're procrastinating after work and you're not getting that workout in, like you may be putting too much energy into that communal work aspect, right?
Yeah.
So you may be able to think back through your day and just be like, damn, like, I busted my ass today and, like you know, put in some long, hard hours and my boss was super appreciative. Um, and those all might be good things. But if you see that trend for 3 weeks where you're not getting the workouts and you're not getting your evening conversations with your friends and you're not filling your cup in these other ways, you'll have a tool where you can visually see that imbalance. And
Mhm.
so if you start to take some of that energy and shift it into these other areas, that's when you'll feel more in balance, right? It's not complex. It's very easy. You just
Mhm.
got to sit down and do this shit,
Yeah.
And it's like I don't I don't need to draw this out every day anymore. When
Yeah.
I first started this practice, I did it for 30 days straight, and I
Mhm.
learned a lot about where I was putting all my energy in my life. I saw that I was overly physical, right? And I still have a tendency to be overly physical.
Yeah.
Um, but with that awareness now, if I'm getting tired and my body's kind of burnt out and like maybe I'm getting sick and I'm just like, fuck, like I really need to slow down. Like for me, when I need to slow down and I'm aware I need to slow down and I don't, I get injured or I get sick,
Mhm.
right? Those are the two things that happen. And I probably knew that I needed to slow down 3 weeks ago. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll slow down in June. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like if I just put it off, then I'm out of balance and I'm kind of walking a plank. Like I'm kind of walking you know, I'm putting myself in a dangerous situation where I'm out of balance. I know I'm out of balance and I'm not really giving my life the attention it deserves in order to get back into balance. Right. So if I drew that out and I wrote down those habits and how I was spending my time, I would be able to see that. See what I'm getting at?
Mhm.
So when you feel off, you have to have the ability to to be real with yourself and acknowledge the hard things, about your situation and then implement change. Like anytime that I'm feeling off, I'm like, all right, like what do I need to change? What do I need to switch up? And I may be doing all the things that I like to do that, I think I should be doing. But, there may be some aspects that like I need to delegate some attention elsewhere. Is that making sense? You like that one?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's good.
Cool. Yeah, try it out, man. Try it out for a week, and just try to bring some awareness to how these are coming out in this diagram. And you can draw it exactly like I did here. Um, what I'll typically do is I'll draw it. It doesn't have to be pretty, and I'll just put a PICES. I know what it stands for, and then I have more room to write kind of some of the things that I'm doing throughout my day.
Yeah. Yeah. I got it written down here on my paper.
Cool. Yeah, and then you can download this presentation as well. So we'll go over this one pretty quickly. This is the last tool. I think this is a huge one, and the assignment this week is going to be like it's going to be pretty deep. I want you to dig deep on it, but this is a powerful tool. All right,
Forward
so
think, backwards plan.
yes, sir. Reverse planning. So this is a great tool for people that have a tendency to get caught up in the details. I'm a very detail oriented person, right? So I can make a list of 50 things that I need to do, um, from start to finish. But if you work in reverse, you'll often identify things that you may be able to cut out.
Mhm.
If you think about what's most important in reverse to achieving your goals. So if you're sitting there and you're just thinking about a lot of hypotheticals of things that could happen that could lead you to be, being overwhelmed or overly anxious or getting caught up in the day to day. I like the ability to shift from, short term vision to long term vision and then work backwards. And that can kind of give you, a reference of where you really stand and what
Mhm.
you're really needing to focus on. So when it comes to reverse planning, like let's say you want to have like let's say financial security is a value here, right? This is something that I want for myself in the next 5 years, right? So that's a long-term goal. Is I want to be financially secure. So if you looked at what needed to happen, you say, all right, like I want to get a new job or I want to get a raise, right? I think planning backwards and saying, all right, this is the things that would need to happen from me getting that pay increase to now, right? So pay increase is the goal. So then maybe the next step backwards would be that I need my boss to acknowledge how hard I've been working and see the value and the contributions that I'm making to the company. And I need to have, a meeting with my boss and explain, why it is I think that, I deserve a raise, right?
Mhm.
See how that's already simplifying the whole situation.
Yep.
And we're not just like showing up to work like, man, I hope one day I get a fucking raise. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So, I think working backwards and saying like, okay, cool, like here's, what needs to happen before that meeting. Like maybe you need to set the expectation with your boss that, you're looking for more responsibilities, or you see someone in your company, that's kind of fallen off or that needs, closer managing or something like that. Like, where can you provide value in this whole situation that's going to equate to your boss feeling like you deserve more money,
Right.
right? So that's a great skill, and this can go way bigger than just work and financial security, and that's what we'll get into here with this assignment. But does that make sense? And you
Oh
see
yeah.
how that works? Yeah, for
No,
sure.
100%. And like I
Dope.
think, if being goal oriented people, which I know you are, like you almost like this probably comes like almost second nature,
Yeah.
not to say that we couldn't be more intentional about it,
Right.
because I definitely could, like, you know, um, like I guess I'm trying to think of a good example, but yeah, like, the raise thing, like, fuck, man, like, I don't know why I'm not getting raised, bullshit. Well, why
Hmm.
don't you come up with, something concrete to present, say, hey, here's my case, or here's what I think I can do better, or, yada yada yada, being more intentional about it, but yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think if you're, a goal person, then yeah, this is like critical.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that maybe even consider themselves goal oriented um, have a tendency to just leave it at, man, I hope that this happens. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
like for that in that example, it's like, hey, my goal is to make more money. I'd like a raise, and you know, you could just look at that and be like, man, I hope that happens, or I hope that like somebody will just come across my desk one day and be like, "Hey, Nick, you're fucking awesome. We're gonna promote you."
Yeah.
But the reality is, especially in a company structure, they're probably gonna get as much out of you as they can, um, for as little money as they can, right? Unless your boss is like really going to bat for you, or there's some opportunity that they think that you would obviously be a good fit for.
Yeah.
Now, this requires them thinking a lot about and it's like maybe your boss is that good of a leader where he's just like he's always tracking on what you're doing and he's like working in your favor and he's ready to go to bat for you and all that shit. Like there are those leaders out there.
Right.
In another sense, this may be a meeting, that you need to call yourself and look out for yourself and say, "Hey boss, like, you know, I've been here for, a year. Um, I really feel like I'm, learning and growing in this position. But just so you know, like growth is very important to me. And I need to know what sort of, benchmarks or mile markers that I can strive for in order to reach that next level. Or, what sorts of responsibilities that I can work towards so that you know my level of commitment to this company,
Mm,
um, and you know that I'm serious about my own career, right?
mm,
So that's a conversation that you can have at any point. I just had it today where my boss is essentially like, "Hey man, like um, you know, we want to pay for this certification for you. Um, would you be willing to sign a 12-month contract before we invest in you?" And I was like, like I appreciate that, and I would love to get that certification, but it's not enough for me to sign a 12-month contract. And I was like, now, if there was a salary, I'm on part time, like hourly rate right now with this company, but I see the opportunity for growth. So I was like, if there's some sort of salary on the table, and just so you know, it's in my plans this year to live in Costa Rica for 3 months. I laid out like what my values were, what my goals were, and presented the solution of like, yeah, I'd be willing to sign a 12-month contract if you paid for the certification, if you put me on salary, and if I was able to work hybrid or remote for 6 months of the year. And he
mm.
was like, "Yeah, cool. I'll take it up to the boss and I'll get back with you." And it was that easy, you know.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I knew what I wanted. I knew what my values were, and I communicated that. And we're potentially I'm potentially going to take that position.
Yeah.
So, but I had to have a tough conversation. I had to be clear on what I wanted and how I thought I could make it work and
Mhm.
ensure them that I could make it work. Right. I was like, hey, like, this is definitely something that I could do from Costa Rica. So, that felt really good, man. It was empowering. It felt like I was valued. It felt like we were in line with like what sorts of contributions I feel like I can make and how I feel like I can make them.
Mm.
And that was reciprocated. So just food for thought, man. And it's like what I'm getting at is like most people aren't going to do these things for you, like you have to be able to plan, and whether it's reverse or short term going to long term, just get super clear on what it is you want for yourself and make sure that it's all like you're the only one that's going to be tracking all these things. Make sure that you're in line with what it is you want and how things are going, and figure out how you got to communicate those things. And there's a
Mhm.
way, and it's often much simpler than we think it is, especially when we're just in that hope and fingers crossed and like kind of taking whatever comes to you mentality. So something to think about there. Cool.
Yep.
All right. So let's get into this assignment. I'm going to prep you. This is a deep one. So this might make you feel some things. All right. So I did this. I forget where I heard it. I think I heard it on a podcast, or something, but it was super powerful. And it's to write your own obituary, right? And guys like us, like we've already acknowledged that life is short, right? And like death is, we're fragile humans, um, and our life may be long and prosperous, or a lot of things could happen. So the exercise and the assignment for this week, is to write your own obituary, right? So an obituary is a notice of death, typically in a newspaper, including a brief biography of a deceased person, right? You've probably read them in the paper before.
Uh-huh.
And I think what's intimidating about this exercise is that I want you to sum it up in 3 to 5 paragraphs, right? And I want you to write it in 10 to 15 minutes. Okay. Like, I don't want you to spend 2 days thinking about what you want on this. Like, I want you to write this down on your schedule and be like, all right, like Thursday evening, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write this obituary. And I want you to scribble it out. Like, stick to that 10, 15-minute max timeline. Okay. Because what you're going to see when you don't overthink this is that it probably flows pretty well. And it probably comes out much simpler than you think. Right. Like, let's give some examples. Like, okay, Nick, and you write it from the third person. So you write like, Nick was, a loving father, and husband. Um, he could always make everybody laugh. He always had a smile on his face. He was a hard worker, um, and, loved to spend his time, fishing and going for long runs.
Hmm.
Right. You see how simple that is?
Yeah.
It's way more simple than the 99% of the time that we're stuck in our heads, like wanting this and wanting that. And like, man, I should start this, nicotine gum company. And, your mind is just all over the fucking place. You're like, yo, like, should I start a fitness company and like make weight belts? Or, it's like, fuck, like, what am I going to do with my life? It's like,
Yep.
holy shit. If you sum up what it is you want to be remembered as and what you want your legacy to be, and you actually take that to heart and think about that in your day to day, like, let's say, in there it's like, man, Nick was such a great friend. He called me once a week for his entire life. Like, that may be how somebody remembers you when you're gone. So, I want you to think about life on that level
Hmm.
and figure out what's important to you. And it's important to you, you know? So write it down. And this is something, this can be fluid. This can change. You can come back to this every 5 years, come back to this every 10 years. Like, what if we lived in accordance with how we wanted to be remembered when we're gone? And if that was, like, if all these values were in there, where, Nick was a nice guy, he was always in a good mood, he always welcomed a stranger as a friend, he was rich as fuck, he respected himself, he respected everybody around him, he cared a lot, he was always calm, and you see the trend here,
Right.
right? So those values are going to be very clear, and it may be a good reference for, like this red and green, you know, maybe everything that you color green is in line with how you want to be remembered.
Hmm.
So that's the assignment this week. And, you don't have to share this with me. Like, I'll, I'll match, I'll share with you what I wrote. Um, if you want to share it, you don't have to tell me now. Maybe, if you hit me up later this week or next week when I hop on the call, if you got the time next week, want to share it with me, then that's cool. I think it could be, um, you know, very healing to put that out there into the world as to how you want to be remembered.
Hmm.
Um, but I'll leave that up to you whether you want to share it or not.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yes, sir. Yeah, man.
Cool,
That's
man.
crazy. I never thought about that.
Dope. Yeah, I know. It's like, it's a big one, bro. It's a big one, and I you know, I've lost people close to me, and it's always such a um sad, but also there's a lot of celebration. There's a lot of life, to be celebrated in these things.
Hmm.
Um and I think it can be cool to kind of think about that for yourself, and recognize that we're not just throwing a spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Right.
So
Okay. Well, cool. Yeah,
Cool, man.
I'll definitely do that this week.
Awesome, bro. Yeah, take the time this week or next weekend, but yeah, I really challenge you to stick to that kind of 10-15 minute mark and just see what just comes out. Like don't write with judgment. Don't write with judgment. This isn't going to be graded for grammar or nothing. Like just see what flows out on the fucking paper.
Okay.
Cool. All right, brother. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time tonight, hopping on here with me. It was fun.
Hell yeah, dude. This is really good stuff, man. Like it's it's stuff we need, like I'm sure you're probably like me, like put and I know everybody like a lot of the world doesn't, but like personal development, professional development, like you probably focus on stuff like that, but then maybe you kind of drift away from it, or
For
this stuff
sure.
maybe you covered in a book one time, and so you kind of know a little bit about it, but you haven't like put it into practice in a while, or
Yeah.
like being a good practitioner of all these things, and so um just talking about it and bringing awareness to it, and kind of checking your own self, evaluating yourself against it,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. I
is
mean, these absolutely, brother. And like these things, like they're great tools, like you don't have to do them forever. And if you choose to and you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this every day for the rest of my life, like I think that would be extremely productive. But reality is like these are gonna be things that, we forget about or come back to. And yeah, you're exactly right. Like, all of us need accountability in these realms. And this program and writing these things and organizing everything is it's keeping me just as accountable to be thinking about this shit,
yeah.
and yeah, I'm really happy to be here and focused, and like, as this thing grows, and even right now, just, having conversations with people that are thinking about the same things or eager to, think more about shit that really matters. It's inspiring to me, and yeah, I'm really excited to see, yours and everyone's that trickles in here,
Yeah,
the
for no,
response.
for
And
sure. I'm excited to see, just in the next, coming weeks and months and years, and whatever, just the different topics and whatnot, because man, I mean, it's you don't always meet it- like obviously I'm sure you have your small little circle of people that you know will chit chat about stuff like this, but most of the people you're not really getting to
dig
that
into it. Yeah.
vulnerable level, and honestly,
Yeah.
like man, I mean, we're kind of living in a world nowadays where it's just like everybody wants to talk about fucking sports betting and shit, and it's just like
Yeah. Or how they're
like come
offended.
on, man, so
Yeah.
having a group to kind of if people are willing to get a little uncomfortable and vulnerable with it, I think it's good, man. So, but like I said, more than anything, dude, I'm just I'm just happy I could be here, with the inception and kind of see this thing grow, because this is good shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And like, yeah, I'm here, man. I'm in this shit. Like, I'm gonna be here every week. I'm pouring my heart and soul into this, and yeah, I'm excited to see how it grows. But yeah, whether that's, over the next few months or 5 years, like I'm committed to this. So I'm not going anywhere, and you're gonna have this as a resource if you want it.
Yep.
So
Um,
awesome, man.
well, cool, man. I mean, if you need help with anything, dude, just let me know, man. I mean,
Definitely,
I don't know what I
definitely,
can
man.
help with, but I mean, we'll fucking figure it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm, really just assuming responsibility until I get this thing off ground. And then I think there'll be ample opportunity. I'd like to do some workouts here in Austin, maybe, a retreat here in Austin. So I'll keep you posted on what that looks like. It might be worth a trip down here to hit a workout or something. We can grab some beers and hang out.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I was actually thinking about
Cool.
maybe driving out there this weekend.
Yeah. I'm around, man. Hit me up. I'm
Okay.
in town. So
Yeah, if I
yeah,
come
let's
out that way, I'll hit you up.
All right, cool. Yeah, just text me later this week and let me know what you decide.
Sounds good, brother. Thanks, man. I
All right, man.
appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll talk soon.
All right, later,
All
dude.
right, later. Have a good night.
All right.